Meeting is now being live streamed.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, 5:15 p.m. regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order at 5:25 p.m. Tonight's invocation will be given by Mr. Hernandez, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Monroe.
Lord, please grant the commission guidance and wisdom with the items presented before them today. Thank you. Amen.
Commissioner Monroe, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Commissioners, please announce any item you are recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Seeing none, we will move on. Ms. Secretary, would you please call the roll of the Planning Commission?
Commissioner Boado,
Present.
Commissioner Gomez,
Present.
Commissioner Monroy,
Present.
Commissioner Preciado,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Barrera.
Present. We will now begin with item number 5.1 on the agenda. At this time, I will open public hearing at 5:26 p.m. May we have the staff report, please, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Today's report will be given by Adrian Andujo. Yes.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and members of the public. For the record, my name is Adrian Andujo, Associate Planner with Bell Gardens Planning Division. The item before you this evening is Zone Code Amendment PLN 26 -000007. So for this item, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission find that the zoning code amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061B3, also known as the common sense exemption. And two, adopt resolution, the Planning Commission adopt resolution PC 26-2, recommending that the City Council approve Zone Code Amendment PLN 26-000007. On October 7th, 2025, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD, issued a letter of technical assistance to the city. The letter requested that the city update its zoning regulations to ensure consistency with California Government Code Section 65583.2, as well as the city's housing element, specifically Program 6. My apologies. Previously on January 23rd, 2023, the city adopted ordinance number 929 in an effort to comply with state law. However, HCD determined that the city's prior efforts did not fully meet the requirements of California Code Section 65583.2. So pursuant to Government Code, Section 65583.2 and the city's Housing Element Program 6, reuse and rezone sites must allow a minimum density of 20 dwelling units per acre and allow by right approval for residential projects that include at least 20% low-income units. So this zone code amendment essentially is intended to respond to HCD's request and support the ongoing implementation of the city's sixth cycle for the housing element programs to fulfill its 2021-2029 regional housing needs allocation. The proposed amendments updates Title IX, the land use zones and regulations, sections 9.4.020, 9.10.030, 9.10.040, 9.12.030, and to sections 9.58.040. Starting with section 9.0402, the proposed amendment adds clear language defining by right projects. These projects are approved ministerially, meaning that they do not require discretionary review or public hearing, but must also still comply with all applicable objective city standards. Moving to section 9.10.030, which covers residential land uses. The proposed amendment establishes that properties identified in the housing element as reuse or rezoned sites may be approved by right if the project includes at least 20% low-income units. This change helps streamline the approval process, allowing qualifying projects to move forward ministerially while supporting state housing requirements and the city's housing goals. For section 9.10.040, the proposed amendment allows, excuse me, reuse and rezone sites to be developed at a maximum density of 24 units per acre. It also introduces a new footnote under density maximums, development standards, and reorganizes existing footnotes within the development standards table. Section 9.12.030, which addresses commercial land use, is amended to include the same previous provisions as the residential section. Specifically, the use and rezone sites may be developed by right. At least 20% of the units are designated for low-income households. And lastly, section 9.58.040, which pertains to type 3 site plan reviews, clarifies that properties identified in the housing element as reuse or rezoned sites shall be considered by right if the proposed development includes a minimum of 20% low-income units. So for the record, I would like to mention that for the zone code amendment, we did not receive any public comments or any concerns. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find that the zone code amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061B3, also known as the common sense exemption, and 2, adopt a resolution PC 26-2 recommending to the City Council adopting zoning code amendment PLN 26-00007. That concludes my presentation. Staff are now open to answering any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. We will now move to commissioner questions or comments. Does any commissioner have any questions?
Hello.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So right now, we're talking about zoning for housing and zoning for mixed use, right? And I'm assuming that this zoning has to be decided upon before we can even look at the TOC, the specific plan.
Thank you for the question. I like to specify. So this agenda item and the TOC are two separate agenda items. And I did plan to make an announcement for the upcoming agenda item, in which I'll discuss when that's going to be heard. But this one in particular is a bit different. So we have a state law that requires the city to have specific permitting requirements if somebody is proposing at least 20% affordable units. And then that same state law says that we have to designate minimum density units per acre, so the amount of housing they can build on that lot. So that's all in state law. We received a letter from HCD stating that we're not in compliance with that state law. So this is us trying to get in compliance with that state law. One thing we didn't mention in the presentation or the report on failure for the city to not comply with the state law would mean revocation and decertification of our housing element, which would put us kind of in a bind in terms of builder remedies and people being able to build essentially what they want in cities' properties. So that's our way of trying to comply with that state law, but it has nothing to do with the TOC.
So it would have no impact whatsoever on the TOC, because I'm looking at the TOC and there are, it talks about, elements of housing and if specific to the, where the Super A area is, but to not get into detail and get ahead of myself, I'm seeing how this could be related to that, because when we see those plans come in for housing, for the housing portion of the TOC, we need to have this in place, remedied, right? Have this in place, because when those plans come in, if you're talking about by rights, then that means that whatever housing plan comes through on the TOC, we're not going to be able to have a hearing about what the proposal would be.
Commissioner, if I may, I do appreciate the questions because they do help clarify for the public and for ourselves. I just want to say that this state law is completely different than the TOC, that they're not connected in any way. And then also, I just did want to maybe perhaps refrain from conversations with the TOC a little bit because it's not agendized. So I don't want to give information that may be inaccurate in terms of the TOC that might help guide a misinformation for the commission and the public. But just to emphasize one more time, they are very, very different. Even if the TOC was not coming before you as an item ever, we would still have to comply with this state law or perhaps perhaps get decertification of our housing element. And then if just to help clarify too, on Exhibit 3 of item 5.1, there's two tables there. So this law, again, in terms of us doing permitting requirements by right for 20% affordable and then establishing 24 units per acre as a maximum, they only apply to these properties here on your Exhibit 3. Yeah. So, and then I'll stop myself. I was going to mention the TLC again, but I'll stop myself right there. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Mr. Andujo may want to add something that might be technical and pertinent to your decision.
Yeah, I think for Exhibit 4 as well, it explains HCD's letter that we would have to be in compliance with the state law. And they're essentially requesting that we update our zoning ordinance to be in compliant with state law.
Thank you, Mr. Andujo. I did want to share too, it's HCD's practice to do this. So this state law had to be passed in 2023, which we did pass zoning regulations and rezoning to try to satisfy this law. But HCD told us that it wasn't enough, that they determined that we hadn't done specifically what we needed to do, right? But what HCD does, it goes from city to city to make sure that we've complied with that law. So it just happened that they reached us finally. I'm sure after us, they move on to the different city in a different city.
So then this zoning pertains only to these particular areas, not anything that's going to have to do with the TOC, not any of those areas.
Not anything that has to do with any other part of the city, just
Okay.
those areas.
Got it. Thank you.
Of course.
A couple questions, actually. I know that as we mentioned right now, the two tables on Exhibit 2 from item 5.1, how were these locations picked for rezoning, basically?
They were picked for this project in particular because they're highlighted in our housing element. The reasons why they were picked in our housing element, the first one, the reuse sites, the first table, table 4.5, that was actually in the old housing element for your cycle 5. And there were properties that nothing came of them. Right? So the state law required us to re-put them back in our housing element. The bottom ones, the rezone sites, it must have been that they were sites that they saw were empty and could accommodate housing. There are other sites that we also use, like the Shoal site that you have over towards the west part of the city. That's an inventory site, but not a reuse site. Yeah, but I imagine the reason why current staff and the consultant that worked on that project was because there were sites that were empty and thought that they were candidates for housing.
Yeah, and then just to get clarification on the by right approval, what is the purpose of the by right approval, basically? I know that because we are currently following it, we just have to amend it to the current zoning code, correct?
Yes, Vice Chair, thank you for mentioning that too. So because it's state law, staff and the city does comply. What the state law wants to do is codify it on both, but just for your information and the public's information, by right means essentially that it's through plan check and through building permit. If they meet the prescriptions in our code for height setback units, then we are forced to approve it. It doesn't come before you as a planning commission or the city council as a city council, in which they get to make a decision of yes or no. The city's forced to approve it, so they get to bypass these procedures. And the state, for these sites that are identified, want that process for these sites.
That was state law before anything else.
On
Thank you for the question. Manuel was the community development director. So basically these amendments that we're doing, it's basically to speed up development. So by right, like our city planner mentioned, Mr. Hernandez, that by right means that it wouldn't have to go have a public hearing. It would just mean going to the front counter. If it meets all the requirements as I mentioned, then they would be able to get a building permit. Versely, now how it's existing, you have to go through the planning commission or more detailed evaluation of the project. But with the by right, and if it meets all these standards that we're outlining, it would go through right through to almost to building department. It's to expedite development, basically.
But for that, they need to have 20%. 20% has to be
Correct.
low income. Thank you for that clarification. And then how are these locations? Because to determine them as low income, it has to be 20% of the units have to be. What determines them as low income?
So the term is AMI. So they set a above moderate of income for household, and then you have to reach a certain percentage under that. So just for simple terms, if it's 100 and low income is 80% AMI, then it'd be a household of 80,000, just for simple math. So those properties either have to be rented or sold to individuals that meet those rental limits. And then on those rental limits are set by county and HUD. So there's plenty of resources for individuals to find out if they meet the low income for our area.
Again, and we are currently that is currently in our in how we develop, correct?
So as a clarification, so our code does not have requirements for any type of lower income. We don't have what's called inclusionary housing. So if somebody proposed housing, they're not required to do it. For this, the state law says if they want to do a by right process, then they would have to provide the low income. If a developer said, hey, I want to build it, but I don't want to do the low income, then they would not be able to have the by right process. They'd have to come before you at your discretion. Yeah.
Okay, and then now what the requirements when it comes to parking and all that is up to, if it's a by right approval, all of the other requirements, do we know what they are or?
We could definitely find out really, really quickly. Off the top of my head, I don't have our parking regulations at the top of my head, but that state law doesn't lend them any reductions in parking. There's other state laws that might lend them reduction in parking if they wanted to, and I could go into that. But for us, they'd have to follow all our standards. So one of our standards being parking. Off the top of my head, I believe for a unit, it's two cars that need to be parked. Yeah, 2 cars, and I believe it'd be 2.5 because half a space for guest parking as well. I'm hearing correct. Yeah. And then to clarify again, but let's say one of these projects came in and said, hey, I'm going to do 20% low income, and I'm also going to do density bonus, which they're allowed by the state to do. The density bonus law has reductions in parking, and then they'd have to follow those. So yeah,
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
of course.
I do have one more question. So the requirement is 20%, right, in order to comply with the state law. I'm just curious to know if whatever number that 20% represents for us, like, does that meet the need? Or, how short of are we of meeting the need, particularly for inclusionary housing?
Well, inclusionary housing is an at-large requirement of everything that comes before you or comes to the city. So let's say one of the if you had passed inclusionary housing and it's a different property than it's on this list, and we have inclusionary housing in the city as codified in our code, then people would be required to follow that. It could be 20% low income, or it could be 20% moderate. The way those things are determined is you'd have to do a plan and a study to determine what would be appropriate in terms of what we would pick and what those categories would fall into. There's pro formas that are made and determined what people can build versus just blanket making up a rule.
You did say we do not have inclusionary housing in Bell Gardens, like anything mandated for, did I understand that correctly?
Correct, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other commissioner questions or comments?
Yes, I do. In accordance to the letter sent by HCD, it says that the city should have provided a timeline to implement these sort of amendments. Are we still within that time frame with the timeline?
Yes, we are. On what we quoted them was today's meeting for planning commission and an April meeting for city council. On you notice that we received the letter in October, and we received some communication before that. There was some back and forth because the city thought that we were in compliance, but the letter in October was our final determination. The letter was their final determination that we were not in compliance. And then we wrote back and gave them our timeline, which would line up with what we're doing now.
This is just a hypothetical. If we did not meet the timeline, would there be any repercussions the city would face, like a fine or anything imposed by the state?
Sure, yeah, yes. So in that same state law, it tells us that we have to comply. HCD would then have to ask a judge to submit a fine. I believe that fine is of $10,000. And then in addition to that fine, they could revoke or decertify our housing element. Yeah. Then we would have to go through the process of recertifying that housing element. And just to share with you, when we first went through the housing element process, I believe that process was about 2 years. I think recertifying may take a little less than that, but it would take some time to recertify.
Yeah.
Of course.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, we will now open public participation for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing, item number 5.1. Please state your name for the record before addressing the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. There are no public comment cards provided. We received one virtual hand. I'm sorry, we received one written comment card. Vice Chair, has been distributed by email.
Right, thank you, Secretary. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. If there are no additional questions or comments by the Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing at 5:50 PM. May I have a motion to move forward with staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report?
Motion to move forward.
May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barrera.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now moving on to public hearing item number 5.2.
Through the chair, if I may, if I could please make a quick announcement on, so the item before you is a recommendation from planning staff to continue the TOC item to next month's meeting, April 15th, 2026. The reason for the continuation is that we received a number of comments from the public during the public review period time. We thought it was necessary to take some more time to make those revisions to our specific plan. And I'd like to remind you, last month we met about the climate action plan. There we had some revisions and we had to make those revisions verbally to the planning commission. Because of the nature of this specific plan, we thought it was best that we actually put it in writing and present it to the public and put it back out for public review so that everybody's aware of the changes that are made to it. So that's the announcement I want to make. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question. I know that we have a deadline, which is the end of April for that funding, correct?
Yes, thank you for asking. The deadline is for invoicing and refunds for some of that funding for the application, but it's not for you to complete the project. The deadline for the project completion is the end of June.
Right, thank you. Just so the public is aware, you will be able to share your comments in the next section, which is public participation on non-agenda items. So please, if you have a comment, just sit tight for now. It is staff's recommendation that this item be continued to April 15th, 2025. If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, item 5.2 will be continued to the April 15th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Through the vice chair, for the record, it's a typo on city staff side. That continued date is April 15th, 2026, for the record.
I didn't catch the first one, but yes, to be continued April 15th, 2026. Now moving on to the next agenda item, public participation on agenda items. Public participation is now open for items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. There are no public comment cards provided, no written comments, and no virtual hands are raised.
If there's no objection from the Planning Commission, I will close public participation for the agenda items at 5:54 PM. Moving on to the consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve items number 7.1 and 7.2 on the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve. I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barrera.
Yes. Moving on to public participation on non-agenda items. Public participation is now open for items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed.
Madam Secretary, I would clarify that the overall comment period for non-agendized items is 30 minutes.
Thank you.
We don't have any virtual?
I'm checking the room. Vice Chair, there is no hands raised.
Thank you. I do have comment cards here, and I will go ahead and read out the names. And can that person that I read out please step over to the podium? And you have 3 minutes. First, I have Corina Corones. Is there a Corina Corones? No, Corina. Moving on to Mitch Belmonte. Welcome, Mitch.
It's Mike. My penmanship's not that
Mike.
good there.
Sorry about that.
I guess I talked to one of the young ladies here and said that my questions were regarding the project. I'm from Pioneer Chicken on Garfield, Florence, and they said this is not the appropriate time that I need to meet with this gentleman to answer my questions. So I don't want to burn your time. That's not, I'm not getting my questions answered, so I'll make an appointment with the city planner. Unless you guys allow me to ask these questions.
Through the chair, the members of the public are free to provide public comment if they like. Just for the public's information too, I left my business cards outside the room. They're free to grab that and call me and we could answer questions. But I would like to state that public comment period is not a forum for questions and back and forths. So we can take down the information and apply appropriate changes to the specific plan through these comments. And it's something that the Planning Commission could take consideration when they do hear the item. But it won't be a forum to answer questions.
I guess it'd be best to make an appointment with this gentleman to have my questions addressed and then come back to see what answers I get. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you in the next meeting. Next, I have Ray Leal. No Ray. Then I have Nathan Nunez, I believe.
Hello, everybody, members of the commission, city staff. I know the TOC is not an agendized item anymore, but I'd like to take some time to talk about some of the wants and things that should be considered by both city staff and the commission within the housing elements that should be provided. I applaud the I guess following the ACD recommendation of having or requirement of having 20% low income, but the city should go well beyond that. They should look at the requirements to have and support very low income housing as well as low income housing, and to go far beyond the number of 20%. Bell Gardens can go well above these measures and support the people, especially with such a development incoming. It's important to to fight the gentrification that can easily come with it. I want to speak a little bit as well on an agenda item, the CEQA exemption, the common sense exemption. I am wary of the language used to create such an exemption. What specifically will be in effect deregulated? Of what risks will that provide to the public with allowing developments with such exemptions? These exemptions are being pushed across the state, and I'm worried for what can be developed on them. Finally, just back on the TOC development plan, I want to speak on delivering on quality developments, especially on mobility. I'm recommending class 2 and class 4 bike lanes. Class 1 would be a very difficult bike lane to deliver on, and class 3 does not provide the enough safety for the pedestrians, for the bikers that are going to be on it. So that's something that I really want in the community. Me and my parents have worked in the city of Bell Gardens for years. I've grown up coming to the Bell Gardens Library, and these are exciting developments, but I want them to be delivered with the rigor that the public deserves, and to be done in ways that will create these developments, but not invite gentrification, that the people can stay here and enjoy these developments as they should. That's all my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Hope to see you April 15th, so you can see the full scale of the TLC. Next, we have Osvaldo Castro. No Osvaldo. Next, we have Adela Padilla. No Adela. Sorry.
No. I was just listening in, but a lot of this language is, a lot of people are not gonna understand what you guys are discussing. One, and then the second one is I don't know how they determine the zoning on what certain spots, because one of the sections is actually my grandparents' duplex, and that home has sentimental value, like they're deceased already, and that got passed on now to my mom. So that it would really break our hearts if they were to tear it down to make new homes, to supposedly create more homes for people that are low income. But I highly doubt it that it would be a better option, considering the traffic, and it's just gonna be as it is. The parking is terrible, but yeah.
Thank you so much. Again, we hope to see everybody here April 15th, where we will be presenting the full scale of the project. Last comment card I have is Laura Alejandra Art.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Sorry.
Bueno, ya siendo yo
Good evening to everyone. I live here in Bell Gardens and I've worked here for 44 decades. I found out about this just Saturday. I think it's not fair. As a business owner, I'm here close to the corner. I grew up here with you all, and a lot of people are surprised just like I am. And I think that this community has improved so much in these 40 years that I've been here. It's a surprise that you want to displace all these people, our community, our Latino community. I don't think this is a good moment to do this kind of investment either. We're at war, the people being sent to their countries, the economy is horrible. It's something for you all to think about and reflect upon. And I think we all have to help each other as Latinos. Thank you very much.
If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation for non-agenda items. Seeing none, we will be moving on to staff comments.
Vice Chair, I do have some comments, if you could bear with me. Thank you, Vice Chair. The city, I believe I shared previously, the city is working on development standards and design guidelines for our multifamily and R4 zones. Currently, our R4 zone is established but does not have development standard and design guidelines. And the city is also working on a update to the city's land use element. As you probably know, the land use element was adopted in 95. It's supposed to be updated every 20 years. So we're about 10 years past due on that update. Current stage that we're in is public outreach, where we're reaching out to the public and saying, hey, what do you like about the city? What kind of land uses would you like to see? What would you like to change? On its overall survey, on asking for varying opinions, also with development standards, what kind of buildings do you like? What kind of things do you like to see in new developments? So that survey is out on our website and our social medias, and also participation may also, there's awards for participation. We have raffles and you can win some prizes like food to different places in the city. And so please, if you could, and the public could fill out the survey and also recommend to family and friends. And then additionally, I'd also like to mention that Adrian Flores, our associate planner's last day with the city will be next Thursday. Adrian is a big part of our team. He's a familiar face and name for our residents and our building community and our business community. So I'm sure he'll be missed. I'm sure there'll be a couple of months that pass by where people are still asking for him. But congratulations to him, and we're really happy for him.
I'd just like to say a couple words. It's just been an honor working for the city of Bell Gardens. It's going to be almost 7 years I've been with the city. Started at the city right after college as an intern, worked my way up, and now associate planner. Throughout the years, I learned a lot with the city of Bell Gardens, and I'm still going to continue to learn. It's just time for me to fly out the nest, as I would say. Bell Gardens has been a home for me, but I'm going to just continue and work on being a good planner, and that's my goal. And I just appreciate you guys for serving the city of Bell Gardens as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much more the city is going to grow once I'm gone. Thank you.
Vice Chair, that concludes staff comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Flores. Moving on to commissioner comments. To start off, I just want to say again, thank you, Adrian, for everything. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we wish you the best of luck in your new endeavors and hope that one day you're always welcome back to planning. The door is always open here for you, and Bell Gardens will always be your home. So thank you. And just like to welcome our new commissioner, Gabriela. She seems familiar. She is actually a former mayor of the city. But welcome, Gabriela. Hope that you feel welcomed here and you get to meet our whole family here.
So with that, if you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead and just make a couple of comments. It's great to be back on the planning commission. After having served on the planning commission before and on council, I took a little bit of a break. And actually what brought me back was the TOC. That's what brought me back, because it's a huge development. It's a huge change for the city. As one of the commenters was saying before, the current crisis that we're in, as a nation, with all of the troubles going on with oil and all of that, my opinion is that this is the right time to do this. This is the right time to explore other ways of developing our city that are more sustainable for all of us, but we also need to do it the right way, right? As someone else was saying, let's not turn this into a gentrification moment. Hopefully this will be something for all of our residents, for people who are currently here. So that's one of the things that brought me back. The other thing is that, there are a lot of exciting things that are happening around us in the communities around us. And I think that the way that we plan for our city and for those changes, and hopefully looking at what the cities around us are doing, we can create a more cohesive plan for everyone. So I'm excited to be back, and I'm glad to see that we have a full commission now. So thank you.
I did just want to express as well just how today's meeting has been bittersweet, learning that Associate Planner Flores will be leaving, but Commissioner Gomez has joined us. So for both, I would like to say I'd love to, I look forward to working with you. And it was a pleasure working with you as well. And I'd like to see everyone who is very invested in the TOC in, I'm sorry, in April's meeting. I'd like to hear everyone else's comments then.
Yes, thank you, Adrian, for everything. You've done so much for this city, and we certainly do appreciate you, and I appreciate you. Good luck to you.
I guess I could go next. It seems to me it's been a while since we had a meeting, maybe because I missed because of work. But yeah, definitely you'll be missed, Associate Planner Flores. You definitely were a staple here. You're professional and definitely keep in touch. Definitely want to see all the great work you're gonna do wherever you decide to go. So thank you for everything. Appreciate you. And see a lot of new faces here as well. So welcome, and it's a pleasure. We have a great team. I want to thank staff for all their great work all the time. And for people out there, también para todos que están aquí, muchas gracias por atender y sigan viniendo a estas juntas porque siempre está vacío. Entonces sigan viniendo así para que hablen y digan su punto de vista, sus opiniones, porque son muy importantes. Y si no están ustedes, ¿quién va a hablar? Nadie. Entonces, gracias por venir. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. And then again, I want to thank the public for being here, everybody. And please come next month on April 15th, where we will be going more into the TLC. If there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the regular planning commission meeting at 6:11 p.m. Thank you.